When I was more of a social media addict, it was like I was a ticking time bomb. I'd constantly be scrolling, almost waiting for some sort of emotionally provoking content to show up on my screen. Not just lust, but also anger were the emotions that would be felt. And it was my constant use of social media that kept giving me these emotions. It was only when I stopped consuming as much as I did that these emotions started to become far less common. The reality is we have so much access to information now. And this amount of information, our brain is not able to process. Yes, our brain is incredibly intelligent and has a lot of memory, but with the sheer just volume of information that our world possesses, it cannot keep up. If we choose to follow the crowd and continue to consume this content, we'll basically be working our jobs just so we can spend 10 to 20% of our waking hours scrolling. Not only that, those 10 to 15% of hours will just be bad emotion after bad emotion, negative, negative, negative. And it makes us spend our time worrying about other people and what they think of us. Often people we don't even know. Most of the information we consume is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. We often think it does, but many of the things on social media and on the news and all these other sort of information sources won't matter in a couple of weeks or a couple of days even. We'll just forget about it. But consuming this information makes it feel like it actually matters, and this will only lead to problems.
A wealth of information creates a poverty of attention. Herbert Simon.
This quote perfectly articulates this idea. The information we consume, especially when it's on such a large scale, means that when we try and pay attention to anything that isn't instantly gratifying, our mind simply can't do it. We are simply unable to focus on anything we really want to achieve. So we enter our classroom, or we enter our workplace, or we just try and read a book, and we can't do it. We can't listen to the teacher. We can't focus and do work for more than a few minutes. And we keep reading the same sentence over and over and over again. All of this is because of the amount of information we are filing into our brains. Information that doesn't serve us in any way. No matter what we think, our mind will hang on to some of this information and it'll play through it subconsciously. And we won't even realize it, but it chews up our capacity to pay attention because it's using a lot of our brain power on something that doesn't matter. If we want to be able to pay attention, we have to cut out this content. I'm not saying you shouldn't consume any content at all, far from it. I'm just saying that you shouldn't consume content in the forms that are so popular nowadays, particularly the news and short form content. Content consumption should be a tool that you use, not a tool that uses you. We should instead learn from books, podcasts, and long form videos. These ways of learning are so much better because of the way our mind works. Think of your knowledge of a certain context as a library. Every single context that you know of has its own library. And within these libraries are books of knowledge on that certain topic. When you are focusing on a certain topic, your brain will call up that library for that specific context. So when you're working, you'll have a library for your work. When you're watching something, you'll have a library for watching something, because it'll have all your information that you know on that thing. The problem with social media scrolling specifically is that it serves up new context after new context. So it keeps changing the context. So when it changes a video, when you change a video, you're going from one library to another, and you keep doing this over and over again. When you get into work, you've already been doing this for like half an hour to an hour. So your mind is already fatigued before you've even started working. And then you wonder why you can't pay attention. It's all because your mind's been running from library to library trying to keep up with the context. And it can't focus now because it's tired. I want you to get this in your mind. This information doesn't help you. From these short form content or the news or from music even, it doesn't serve you. So you need to cut it out. You might think that if you cut it out, your life will be made worse. But actually life will just continue as normal, and now you'll actually be able to focus. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. How do you expect to achieve anything if you can't deeply focus and do work on something that you care about? Not only that, but how are you meant to be present with the people you love? If your mind is all foggy and you can't pay attention, your life will become infinitely better if you can pay attention. So over the next couple of weeks, I want you to try these things. Firstly, do not use your phone in the first few hours of the day. Once you wake up, do not touch your phone. You might think that you need to use your phone in the morning, but oftentimes you don't. The only thing I use my phone for in the morning is meditation. It's a meditation app I have on my phone. And right now, recording. That's it. In these first few hours, I don't use my phone. Why is this? Well, it's because for these first few hours, your mind is the most sharp. This is the best time of the day to get work done. I'll tell you how my morning routine goes. Basically, I get up, get sunlight exposure if the sun is out, which it usually is at this time of year since it's quite early rising in the summer. Then I get into a cold shower, I meditate, and then I work. You might be thinking, where's the part where you eat breakfast? That's the key to this. You don't eat breakfast before you work. You might think this is strange, but let me explain it to you. When you eat breakfast, that food goes into your digestive system. And when you have your digestive system active, it needs energy. It uses all that energy to digest your food. The reason this is so detrimental to your focus is because it means you can't use all of your energy on that mental focus, because the work you will do in this time will be challenging. It'll be somewhat difficult. So you need as much energy as you can to do that work. Of course, fasting in the morning will not always be possible, especially if you're not going to be able to eat till like lunchtime, specifically if you got school. But try this if you can. If you have work and you can eat whenever you need to, try this. It is incredible what this does. It is incredible how much focus and energy you can use on working when you haven't got any food in your system and when you have no distractions. This is known as the eat the frog method. It's known as eating the frog because basically it's one of the hard things you do in the morning. It's like the hardest thing you're going to do throughout the day. This deep, focused work. And when you do this work, you get this sense of accomplishment that carries on throughout the day. It lifts your mood and it leads to a more productive day. And it means you've got the task done, so you don't really need to worry about it anymore. So eating the frog for a student would be doing a past paper if they have an exam coming up. For me, with content creation, it's writing, recording, or editing. It's the most challenging task you can do for that specific thing, for that specific objective. Lastly, I'd like to suggest to stop watching content that provokes negative emotions. Anything that will make you angry or lustful or shameful, anything. No more news. Block or unfollow the accounts that provoke you. And don't be watching porn. In some cases, it might be best to even delete these apps that are forcing you into these negative emotions. They don't matter, these apps, keeping them around, if you are thinking about deleting them. The mental clarity that you gain from not having all this negative information in your mind is irreplaceable. It is incredible being able to have this mental clarity and focus and confidence in your own ability to try this out, because I think it'll genuinely be life-changing. When you get all this work done in the morning, it's all done. And you don't have to spend 8 hours of your day studying, because to be honest, it's not even that much more effective. Especially if you're trying to study for 8 hours a day, you're not going to be focused the entire time. But when you do 1 or 2 hours in the morning where you're completely focused and nothing else is in your mind, you're going to produce the best work possible. And that's why you can actually get good grades and do well while seemingly doing very little work. So try this out. It is incredible what this does. And I hope you will stick with it and actually give it a chance to see how it goes. I love you all. Now stop consuming and go create.